Man, if you're making beats and you're over the age of like 27, just stop. No one wants to hear old men making beats.
If you sampling a soul record, get that bullshit out of here. No one's trying to hear that.
They make this old boom bap stuff. No one wants to hear that.
I hate soul, boom bap.
Exactly.
Get that unk shit out of here, bro. I don't like any of that music.
Matter of fact, if you're over the age of 19, you need to quit making beats. For real. Stop. Okay, that interview kind of went viral where Emerald, who's like a big producer, is going off on the older generation and hating on soul music. And he's trolling, guys. So am I. Clearly, I am an older producer. The crazy thing was when I did that Kavi sample flip challenge, someone in the comments said, imagine being 40 years old and making something like that. And I was like, oh, wow, this is my first 40-year-old compliment. So I'm embracing it. I'm not wearing the big ass jeans. I'm not saying Riz, but let's talk music. Let's talk beat making. As producers get older and they're still making beats, obviously there are a lot of older producers, the young dudes that love to throw rocks at us old guys, are dick riding producers that are way older than us, like the Timberlands and the Mike Deans and Rick Rubins and whoever else these dudes would urinate on themselves if they ever met. And I don't like ageism in any arena, but especially in production. The people on one side who are hating on the older guys, and there are the older dudes that look down on the younger generations. It's all very stupid and a waste of time, and I feel like sometimes I'm an alien because I don't choose to go either. Are you serious, dude? Because I don't choose either side of that argument. But here's the thing, producers who are older, and it's not just older producers, it's everybody, but specifically producers who are older. If you're not up on the newest music, and if you don't like the newest music, if you're one of those older producers like, I can't stand any of that young boy shit, I hate all that young people shit, it sounds terrible to me. How can you make your beats sound new and edgy? And I'm not saying to chase trends or duplicate the current sound. I'm just saying, if you are one of those people who have fossilized your music taste, where you only listen to music from a certain era because that's the only music that's valid to you, you can still make great music. But if you're trying to make music that sounds a little more current, it's going to be damn near impossible to do so if you hate current music. So let's just talk about the older producers, because there are two types of older producers. The kinds of older producers who embrace changes in music and embrace new music, new generation sounds, and then the older producers who completely resist anything new. Luckily, I DJ, I work in schools, I work with younger artists, so I'm listening to new stuff. And a lot of times it's stuff I've never heard before, so I want to listen to it. I'll admit, nowadays, the newer beats are very different from what I grew up on, and very different from what I was making when I first started making beats. And it goes kind of against my intuition a lot of times, because a lot of these new songs are breaking the rules that were beaten into our heads when we came up. For example, rap beats nowadays are super loud and distorted. I was at a club the other day and someone requested this song, and I don't know if it was like sexy drill. It was a very different sounding production style, and the beat was super distorted, but it sounded dope to me. I liked it. They were pushing the boundaries of this new kind of distorted sound that a lot of engineers are embracing and no longer resisting, because back, 20 years ago, never would have happened. So I don't feel like an old man just yet. And I like weird shit, honestly. As a teenager, I listened to Kool Keith, Prince Paul, and Tricky, and Anacon. But the one thing that changed as I got older is that I'm not, and for good reason, having a lot of conversations with kids. If I'm in the schools, or if, I'm interacting, like my girlfriend has a daughter that's young and, she's watching TikToks and stuff. And sometimes I just have to stop her and be like, oh, okay, what is that song? If I'm not regularly communicating with the next generation, it's hard for me to really know where the sound of the culture is trending. And here's a fellow producer that's over 40, Bolo the producer. I wanted to have him on here face to face, but I got super sick. It was COVID. Oh my God, it was terrible. He recently dropped a video that was titled "Producers Over 40 Years Old Don't Do This." I had to watch this, so let's watch this.
To all of my unks and my unkettes out here who are producing over the age of 40 years old, congratulations by living a good and healthy life.
We're already off to a positive start. Here we go. This is way better than my intro.
And I want to talk about something that you should not do when producing.
Okay, before we continue, this is the guy behind the Silence Oh Watch Me beat. This song is inching towards diamond status. It's 6 times platinum right now. And I just wanted to confirm this also. He was 17 years old, so this was 9 years ago. He was 17 years old when that track came out. So Bolo the producer was working with a 17-year-old, and that was a huge hit. I mean, obviously a huge hit.
When I work with other guys who are a little bit older, there's a common theme that I see with a lot of producers who are over the age of 40, 50, 55, 60. But there's one thing that you should not do under any circumstances. This is something that I've seen over and over again. When you get to a certain age, you could be a little stubborn, but one thing you cannot do is try to force old school production on these young kids. I see it time and time and time again, like when some of my, buddies who are a little bit older, they come through and they...
I'm trying to picture a session that you're a producer and you were, someone that wants to sound like Von off 1700 and you're like, no, you gotta check out this beat I made. It sounds like the first Gangstar album.
And they play some beats and they're like, yo, what artist you think can get on this? And be honest with you, I just tell them like, hey, I don't think nobody's gonna get on this right now, especially anybody who's a little younger. And then they look at me with this crazy face like, what do you mean? Like, this is classic hip hop. This is real music.
Older producers can be stubborn. That's the stubborn camp, the camp that resists trends. But there's something that I got to get off my chest. Let me listen a little more. There's something that I feel like is missing from the conversation. It's interesting. It's a phenomenon that I've noticed over the years.
I'm just being honest with you. Like, these kids right now are on a whole nother wave. If somebody was born in 1970 and they were 18 in 1988, they were on a different wave than somebody who was born in 1980 and they were 18 in 1998.
Isn't that crazy to think that at one point the music that's considered old people music was very cutting edge and controversial? This is why I tweeted, producers that make fun of other producers for being older are wild to me, because do not know how time works. Like, if you're a 22-year-old on Twitter talking shit about someone that's in their 30s, bitch, you're about to be 30. Like, do the math. Public education system can't be that bad.
That 10-year gap was a different wave. And then somebody who was born in 1990 that was 18 in 2008, that was a different wave.
That's true.
So every single decade, there's a different wave all the time. Now, this wave right here is kind of been the same. Maybe in 2028 might be a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? But really, since about 2015 to about now, this has kind of been pretty steady.
I kind of disagree, because I feel like now it's a great shift. Correct me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment. I would love to flesh this idea out a little more, but it strikes me that rap music and R&B music is changing quite a bit, and you're now seeing very different mixing techniques. There are still some common themes that continue over the years, but you're now hearing snares not landing on the 2 and the 4. We heard snares land on the 2 and the 4 for decades. All of a sudden, there was that brief period in the 90s when a lot of hip hop music was fusing with dancehall, and that's an entirely different rhythm. But that rhythm in dancehall has been consistent for a while too, and I think even dancehall is changing and using less conventional rhythms for the drum patterns because of the popularity of drill. I don't even know if it's drill, that's like post-drill. It's what's coming after drill. Boss Man D-Lo just dropped a single where that snare, one of those snares, was not hitting on the 4th count. Think things are changing right now. I think we're witnessing a lot of transformation in the way rap, pop, hip hop beats are created, and it'll be interesting to see if drum patterns get crazier or if they revert back to your conventional snare hitting on the 2 and the 4 count.
Some of us, we get stuck in our old ways. And then when we get stuck in our old ways, we don't necessarily know how stuck we are.
Yes, yep,
you know what I'm saying?
We don't.
We don't know. And it's not a bad thing. If you're happy doing what you do, by all means, be happy doing what you do. However, as being somebody who's a little bit older, these kids are not looking at it in the way that we are looking at it, saying, well, we need to bring back the classic hip hop and the classic sounds and whatever, which you can do that. Now, there is some kids out here who are on that vibe.
All right, so here's my theory. Golden era hip hop never dies. It ducks out of the picture for a little while, and I'm talking about the mainstream, but eventually there's a revival. And it happens when you have kind of a trend away from that sound, an absence of boom bap in the mainstream for a long period. I'll explain. So when I was in high school, there was this long era where the dominant mainstream sound was, No Limits run, Cash Money's run. All of a sudden, here's Eminem, and he's the biggest, the highest selling rapper ever in history, and he comes from that golden era battle rap scene. Not that there weren't other artists doing that. I'm talking about on a mainstream level. Suddenly he's this superstar and sets a new trend in motion where a lot of rappers now want to sound like him. They want to do battle rap. They want to rap over bouncy boom bap beats. Then there's a period where that sound really isn't super dominant, and we had that era with all the Kanye production, and that was kind of golden era, but it was a little updated. Still soul samples. It was kind of a bridge between the 90s into the 2000s. But then there was a period where that wasn't really present in mainstream hip hop, and all of a sudden, who do we have burst onto the scene? Odd Future. Tyler, the Creator's breakout single was super 90s sounding. And all these little all these little kids thought it was the coolest thing ever. The reason is because it's counterculture all of a sudden. You're making music that goes against what's popular, and so it feels edgy, even though it's been done before. But what you have to understand is that the generation of Odd Future fans was so far removed from the 90s, they were discovering that sound for the first time, so it felt completely new. After Odd Future, Mac Miller, Joey Badass, and Pro Era, that kind of stopped being mainstream for a while, and now we have Griselda, and they're not necessarily young guys, but still there's that presence of the 90s sound and production style in the current landscape. My theory is that within the next few years, we're going to hear a lot of similar music that's trending away from 90s era boom bap, golden era hip hop. And then maybe 3 years from then, when boom bap is just not present, we're going to have another young generation revival of golden era hip hop. But I love the conversation Bolo's having, because it's very easy for us older producers to point out all the flaws in the younger generations, but very rarely do we look in the mirror and have that conversation horizontally with one another about our contributions to the intergenerational rifts and toxicity that exists. Would love to continue this conversation. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. Peace.